taking your time to participate in this conference, Janice. Could you just briefly introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Janice Lawandi, and I work as a recipe developer and a food stylist and a food photographer in Montreal, Quebec.
So can you tell me what lab you're part of and when you graduated from Guild?
So I work for Dr. Moitessier, and I graduated in 2010. And I had two projects. One of them was designing a series of small molecules to target the POP enzyme, prolyl oligopeptidase. And my second project was actually in sugar chemistry. I worked with a directing protecting group that I installed at position 6 of glucose, and I used that to direct subsequent reactions to see if we could do sugar chemistry without so many deprotection steps.
What made you interested in going into food styling and recipe development?
I always had an interest for food for a long time before I even started my PhD, but I was more interested in recipes and what makes them work and what makes them not work at all. I kind of pursued culinary arts a little bit after my PhD because I wanted to get a better understanding of recipes and how they work.
So can you describe briefly what you did immediately after graduating from McGill?
So while I was doing my PhD, I had an interest in science writing and communicating science to the public. So the first job I took was as a medical writer for IC Axon in Montreal. And I was basically writing the training material that's used to train the reps for pharma companies when they're selling the drugs to doctors. So teaching them about the diseases, the drugs, the metabolic pathways, the side effects. It was a good job and it was a consistent job, but in the field, they kind of refer to it as creative plagiarism because of the regulations that sort of rule over the pharma industry. You can't really be creative in how you deliver the information. And so a lot of it is translating what's written in the prescribing information and in the packaging, but you can't deviate much from the wording. I got to a point where it was interesting and I had learned a lot, but it wasn't exactly what I wanted to do. And so at that point, I kind of quit and I decided to move on. And that's when I went to culinary school.
Beyond going from medical writing to immediately to having your own blog, what unexpected hurdles did you run into?
Yeah, so I started my blog actually in 2010 because I kind of wanted a distraction from like just doing the 9 to 5 and the medical writing. And I was really interested in food. And so I decided to use the blog as a platform to explore recipes on my own. I tried to apply for jobs in the food industry, but if you come from a background like ours and you go to a cafe and you say you want to bake for them and they ask you for your CV, it's a little bit weird and it's not always well received and people kind of get confused because they don't understand that you want to maybe change a career path or do something different and they don't think you're serious. And that was part of my decision to go to culinary school. So when I graduated from basic pastry, I still wanted to open a bakery. And I took the academic route of it, of writing a proposal. And in writing a proposal for opening a bakery, I realized that the math is a little scary in that it costs a lot of money to open a bakery. And then I kind of reined it in and I was like, no, I'm just going to focus on my website and what I know how to do and what I've learned how to do. I started collaborating with people in the industry as a recipe developer and started to learn food styling. Something that we don't realize when we're in graduate school because we're all together doing the same thing and everybody around you is academic. When you go out into the real world and you present your CV, there aren't that many of us actually that are out there. And some people think it's amazing to have a PhD and they will want to work with you because they realize that that's an asset, but other people take it badly or they're intimidated. They kind of take a step back and they're just like, you don't belong here. So there were times in my path where I felt like I had to completely delete it from my CV and pretend like it didn't exist. But then through collaborating with the right people, I finally found a path where people think that it's useful, that they can use it to their advantage in hiring me.
What advice would you like to give to your graduate student self?
Keep going. It's good to finish, and it'll be worth it in the end. I learned so much from it. It's become an asset and a selling point in my career that I have a PhD.
What's your favorite memory of graduate school?
Sitting on Monday afternoons sharing cake with the chemists. I'd often bake on Sundays and bring something in. And whether it was good or not so good, they would sit with me and we would eat together, and then we would talk about our week or talk about what was going on.
Thank you for being able to participate in our podcast.
Thank you for having me.